Everyone, in this video we will learn about buckets in Splunk. Bucketing concept is a very important topic as far as the Splunk is concerned. So when the data ingested initial stage, in the indexes phase, it will be going into buckets, right? So it's really important to know what kind of data will be going to which bucket, and what are the phases of bucket, right? So before we talk about buckets, it is really important to know what happens in the beginning phase before the data going into the buckets. So if you see now, here the how the indexer stores indexes. Okay, we need to know the process, how the indexer stores indexes basically, and then we can follow the bucketing process as the data goes. If you see, as the indexer indexes your data, it creates a number of files. All right, the raw data in compressed from the raw data journal, and indexes that points the raw data tsidx. This is basically a file name, and then some other metadata files as well. Now together these files constitute the Splunk Enterprise Index. The files reside in sets of directories or buckets. This is where buckets actually coming into picture. Organized by age in the sense the how long the data will be stored in the bucket before it rolls to the other bucket, right? So that you can call it as age. All right, now each bucket contains a raw data journal along with associated tsidx file and metadata files. The data in each bucket is bounced by a limited time range. Okay, every phase data will be going into other bucket, right? So it will follow it will have it will contain basically a limited time range, okay, before it going to the other bucket. Now if you see this diagram, this will give you complete idea of bucketing process, bucketing system, right? For example, let's say you are sending the data from universal forwarder to any indexer. So initially we all know, right, data will be in the input phase, right? Input phase, parsing phase, indexing. So this is the data phases. We already spoke about this in my previous video. You can refer my Splunk components video to know about data pipeline, right? So similarly, when the data going from universal forwarder to to indexer, once as per the requirement, when you get the data, when the data is divided, this is where bucketing will be coming into picture, right? If you see, once the data is going into the indexer, after it is parsed and indexed, and it will be rolling to the buckets. So if you see here, a hot bucket, initially any data, newly coming data will be stored in the hot bucket basically. Okay, you remember, any new data which is coming from the forwarders or any instances will be stored in the hot bucket. From there it will be going to the warm bucket. From hot bucket, data will be rolling to the warm bucket, and then it goes to the cold bucket. From there it will be going to the frozen bucket. This is basically once the retention period gets complete, right? The retention period is nothing but the period which the data stores from each bucket, right? So that you can call it as a retention period. And one more important thing you need to understand here is that basically Splunk stores the data for 24 hours, 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. the oldest data will be deleted, right? So based on that concept, data will be rolling out from one bucket to another bucket. So finally it will be, once the data reaches to the frozen bucket, okay, you will not be able to search the data, because at the frozen bucket, data will be deleted. It will be archived and deleted. We will actually see what exactly happens every stage in our next slide. And this is one more typical diagram for you to give a good idea from hot bucket how data will be going to the warm bucket, and then it will be going to the threshold bucket and frozen bucket, and finally it will be in the third path, right? So if you see here, we have bucket and a description, and is the data will be searchable or not. Okay, let's see this in the hot bucket stage. What happens is new data is written to hot buckets. Okay, each index has one or more buckets. Okay, so remember this point. Each index has one or more buckets. Now in this stage, data will be searchable. Remember, hot bucket, in the hot bucket data will be searchable. What happens in the warm bucket? Okay, buckets rolled from hot new data is not written to warm buckets, and index has many warm buckets. In this phase, data will also be searchable. Now in the cold bucket, buckets rolled from warm and move to the different location, and index has many cold buckets. Here also data will be searchable. Now what happens in the frozen bucket? Rolled out from the cold, the indexer deletes frozen buckets, but you can choose archive from first archived buckets can later be thrown, right? Remember, in this phase, specifically frozen bucket phase, data will not be searchable, because once the data reaches to the frozen bucket, data will be deleted. Okay, here you cannot search the data. Now third bucket, from buckets restored from an archive. If you archive frozen buckets, you can later return them to the index by throwing them. All right. So this happens. This is what happens in the last phase of the bucketing process. Here also data will be searchable. So ultimate point is that when the data reaches to the frozen bucket, data will not be searchable. Okay, so this is really important concept. This can be expected in interviews, and this is also helpful to you when you are working in real time. Also, bucketing concept is one of the most important and expected topic as far as the Splunk is concerned. Okay, friends, I hope this video will help you to understand the bucketing system, and please do let me know if you have any questions, and do subscribe to my channel Technology Redefined. Thank you so much.